are living in extraordinary times when it comes to threats to personal freedom. The founders spoke mostly about freedom of conscience, and you could argue that the whole First Amendment rests upon freedom of conscience, and yet today it's under attack from almost every quarter. Do you see it that way?
Certainly do. My background before I got to Congress was in constitutional law. I worked for the Alliance Defending Freedom, and we defended religious freedom and the right of conscience in courts all around the country. And we've seen an increasing assault on that most fundamental freedom that we have. We call religious liberty our first freedom for a reason, of course, because it's listed first. And that's because the founders understood your right to believe and to act upon that belief is essential to who you are as an American, but even more fundamental than that, who you are as a human being. And so it's critically important to protect it, and yet we've seen this increasing assault over the last several decades, really. It's been growing. I think of the case that we have pending at the U.S. Supreme Court right now, the Masterpiece Cake Shop case. Critical for the future of religious liberty in America. Here you had a mild-mannered Christian who was willing to stand by his convictions at great peril and great cost. He's lost at every avenue and every level of the appellate court system, and now it's pending before the U.S. Supreme Court. The outcome of that case could decide, in large measure, how we're able to live out our faith in the public square now, if we can still live in accordance with the dictates of our own conscience. And so it's hard to overstate the importance of cases like that, but we would not even be able to get those into the courts to challenge those crazy decisions below if we didn't have committed Christians and believers who are willing to take that stand. So it's critical for us to do that.
Yeah. You can see both sides of this. You've fought at the grassroots level and to the judicial process in defense of freedom. You're now sitting in Congress and are looking at the adoption of laws and agencies that oversee many aspects of our freedom are now subject to an unelected bureaucracy, the FCC, the Federal Election Commission, and so on. When we look objectively at members of Congress these days, it seems to me we see some great people, some really quality people, but many, even some who name the name of Christ, don't seem to possess a solid biblical world and life view. They don't seem to have a firm grasp, let alone mastery of the Constitution. They don't really even, I think in some cases, understand the political philosophy of the opponents that they face.
Exactly.
So I say all that to ask you this question. What kind of preparation should someone be seeking to undertake if they want to seek elected office and serve in the public policy arena?
That is an excellent question, and I think it's critical for us to be asking it and answering it right now. I think you hit the nail on the head. There's a lot of good people in public office. There's some who get elected under a certain party label and aren't even sure really what that party's platform stands for, much less having a core and settled philosophy of government themselves. So it's easy to change someone. You see people who have wildly inconsistent voting records, and you say, how could that be? It's because they're influenced by whoever the loudest voice is on whatever issue there is. Exactly, because they don't have a true core philosophy that they're trying to defend and advance. You have people, even who are being elected to high office, who don't even understand the basic mechanics and the philosophy of our government. What is a constitutional republic? Why is this so important? Why has it been the most successful form of government on the planet? And by the way, it's still an experiment. We're only 240 years into this, right? We have to be able to articulate the reason for the hope that we have.
So there's an academic or a knowledge-based sort of component, but from your perch in the Congress too, it seems as though many people arrive there without the necessary skill set to be effective. They don't know how to speak well and debate, and they don't know how to negotiate, and they don't know how to do media relations. We've seen some famous cases of some really terrific men and women who've come under duress for not being able to handle the media properly and so forth. What do you recommend someone to do in terms of preparation for the skills necessary to be an advocate in public?
It's a good question. It's a broad array of skills that are necessary. I'm by no stretch of the imagination any master of any of this, but I am a student perpetually. And you try to emulate, you find those. Ronald Reagan was called the great communicator, right? Why? Because he worked so hard on his own delivery. He often wrote his own speeches, or when a speechwriter handed him something, he would edit it to where it was his own voice. And then he would practice the speech over and over and over, That's why he was so ably and effective at presenting it. And it takes that level of commitment, that level of work. It's some people are born with it and others have to develop the skill. I I think, work under the assumption that you need to develop the skill and look for opportunities to do that, and just be willing to put in the work for it. You know, I've seen a lot of people who came to office and developed the skill and were much better after a year or two in office than they were when they began. But the difference between those folks and the others is that they dedicated themselves to the task, and it takes that work, and look for those to emulate and work with.
You didn't run for Congress, I'm guessing, because you thought there was no hope for America. Give us some hope. What's one thing that people might, if they understood better, might give them hope for what we see in the restoration of Republican, small r, Republican form of government?
Well, people ask me all the time, what's the most surprising thing about being elected to Congress? And I would say that the most pleasant surprise has been some of the colleagues that are serving in the Congress. There's a growing number of true people who I would describe as constitutional conservatives and also committed Christians, believers who understand the importance of the spiritual aspect of what we're doing and why God has blessed our nation as He has. And to me, that's an encouraging thing. I think we are trending in the right direction. And you can make the argument for economic purposes or for foreign policy and all the rest. But spiritually, I think, even though it seems dark and the darkness seems to be encroaching, it's a great time for the church to be the church. And when we're encouraged to do that, we can make a lasting effect here and in eternity. And we see the results when we do, and that's what keeps us going.
Well, thank you for your service to our nation.
Thank you.
Thanks for being with us today.
Absolutely.